This exchange is easy to miss if you're only listening for shouting or viral one-liners. But what Senator Gary Peters does here is something far more consequential. He walks viewers step by step through how power quietly bypasses accountability, not with drama, but with budgets, paperwork, and silence.
Thank you again, Secretary Noem, for being here. I just want to follow up briefly with Chairman Paul's questions about the cost of the wall, the billions of dollars that are going to be put forward. We do have to have accurate numbers so that we could look at that for funding it. But I would hope you also take a look at all of the cost of a wall, because there are a lot of other secondary kinds of defenses you have to put forward. I was at the wall. I've been with security folks. They tell me that a lot of the cartels have designed very sophisticated technologies to get over the wall. They're called ladders and they're called ropes. So a wall doesn't really do the job if there's not a lot of other background technologies there. So you just can't put out a cost for the wall. That's money that's not going to be as effective without everything else. So let's have a discussion about that. For the first time in U.S. history, the federal government, at the direction of President Trump, is moving immigrants apprehended and detained in the United States on civil immigration charges to Naval Station at Guantanamo Bay, which I know you're very familiar with. In March, I traveled to Guantanamo Bay with several colleagues to have a firsthand examination of the detention operations underway. And I certainly have serious concerns about the cost involved there. To date, can you tell us the total cost for detaining individuals at Guantanamo Bay?
You want the cost per individual?
Do you have that?
I do not have that with me today, sir. I can get that for you.
Well, I do have a number. Do you know how much it costs to hold an immigrant in ICE detention facility in the United States? Do you have that number?
Now, are you talking per day? 100 and I believe the last estimate that I got was $142 a day, around in that approximately, per day?
Yeah, but it's close to what I'm understanding. I understand it's $165 per day, so it's in the range. I'm still waiting for detailed financial information from this administration from my time to Guantanamo Bay. In fact, a letter with Ranking Member, or Chairman Paul and the Ranking Member together, we wanted more information on the costs there. When I was there, the 2-month cost estimate for operations was $43 million when we were down there talking to the officials there. And that does not include transportation to and from the island. We find that people are sent to the island and then they're sent back to the United States again before they're sent out. I'm not sure why we have all those costs. We have plenty of ICE facilities to keep them here. Why you have to send them there and back. And on the day that I visited, there were 87 people in custody. And my understanding is that's a pretty normal number. At that time, at least. So my back of the napkin calculation, we're waiting for your numbers, is that it's costing about $100,000 a day to keep someone at Guantanamo Bay. Man, this is like ripe for Doge. Why is Doge not down there? We're spending $100,000 a day to keep someone at Guantanamo, and we fly them down there, we keep them there a while, then we fly them back to the United States. Or we could keep them here for $165 a day. I think that's kind of outrageous. So, I'm concerned by the staggering cost of this, and I would hope, Secretary, you could commit providing this committee a detailed breakdown of the total cost of that operation there. There were just a sea of empty beds. There was all sorts of security folks and nobody in those beds, which is why it's so expensive. So Chairman Paul will probably use this on his Festivus report later, I'm sure, of outrageous government spending, and I'll look forward to seeing that. Secretary Noem, are you familiar with Section 872 of the Homeland Security Act of 2002?
It sounds familiar, sir. You'll have to remind me the topic, yes.
Well, Section 872 requires you, as Secretary, to provide a 60-day notice to Congress of any creation, deletion, consolidation, or alteration of organizations within the department that are not required in statute, which must include an explanation for the rationale behind any charges. It also prohibits you from making any changes to offices in the status. So my question for you is, why have you not provided notice to Congress of the changes you are making at the department? And will you be doing so in the near future? And will you include intended reduction in forces in that? For example, you've already terminated virtually the whole Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Office staff without any communication to Congress about your intent. And the only letter yesterday claiming all of the statutory responsibilities would be met, you sent a letter, but it conflicts certainly with the whistleblower disclosure that I received last week. So please explain to the committee why you are not following this law.
Well, Senator, we are following that law. Those offices that you referenced are still open and functioning and providing their duties as required, but they have been right-sized. Many times the Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, or the Ombudsman Office, which you and I visited about before, had grown quite expansive. They were used as a political tool, suing and attacking each other and censoring individuals and not doing the job for which they were created. So we've right-sized them, put them back on mission, and if there would be an instance to where notification is required, I certainly will follow that.
Time has expired. Senator Moreno.
Thank you again.
Peter starts in a place that sounds almost mundane. Money. How much things actually cost. And that matters because democracy doesn't just break down through ideology. It breaks down through waste, opacity, and the refusal to answer basic questions. He challenges the idea that you can talk about a border wall as a single price tag. A wall doesn't work on its own. People with first-hand experience tell him cartels don't need high-tech solutions to defeat it. They use ladders, ropes, simple tools, which means the wall only functions if you layer it with surveillance, manpower, technology, and maintenance. When the administration gives Congress a number without acknowledging all of that, it's not just incomplete, it's misleading, and Congress cannot do its job if it's budgeting in the dark. Then, Peters pivots to something much more serious: Guantanamo Bay. For the first time in U.S. history, immigrants detained on civil immigration charges, not terrorism, not criminal convictions, are being sent to a military base synonymous with secrecy and extraordinary cost. Peters doesn't speculate. He went there, he saw it firsthand, and what he describes is staggering. 87 detainees. A 2-month operational cost of $43 million, empty beds, massive security infrastructure, constant flights moving people down to the island, then back to the United States before deportation. This isn't efficiency, it's logistical chaos. Peters does the math out loud so viewers can follow it themselves. Holding someone in a U.S. ICE facility costs roughly $165 per day. Holding someone at Guantanamo, based on the numbers available, appears to cost around $100,000 per person per day. Not per year, per day. That's not a rounding error. That's not bureaucratic sloppiness. That's a policy choice. And Peters makes the point painfully clear. There is no operational necessity forcing this. The United States has ICE facilities. The only thing Guantanamo adds is cost, secrecy, and distance from oversight, which raises an obvious question. Why do it at all? That's when the hearing moves from waste to legality. Peters asks Secretary Noem about a specific law, Section 872 of the Homeland Security Act of 2002. This isn't obscure trivia. It's a direct statutory requirement. If DHS plans to create, eliminate, consolidate, or alter offices that are not mandated by statute, the Secretary must give Congress 60 days' notice. That notice must explain why the change is happening, and Congress must be informed before major reductions in force. This law exists for a reason. DHS is massive. Its reach touches civil rights, immigration enforcement, cybersecurity, disaster response. Congress cannot provide oversight if entire offices are dismantled without warning. Peters points to a concrete example, the near-total termination of staff in the Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, an office specifically designed to investigate abuses inside DHS, an office that acts as an internal check when power goes too far. According to Peters, Congress received no notice, no explanation, no formal justification, only a late letter claiming everything is fine, a claim that directly conflicts with whistleblower disclosure disclosures already in his possession. When Noem says the department is following the law, Peters doesn't accept vague assurances, because following the law doesn't mean saying the office still exists in name. It means respecting Congress's right to know before changes are made, not after the damage is done. Noem's defense is revealing. She says the offices were right-sized, that they had grown too expansive, that they had become political tools, that they were censoring people instead of doing their jobs. Even if someone believed every word of that, the law doesn't disappear. Congress still has to be notified. Oversight doesn't vanish because an administration believes an office is inconvenient. That's the deeper lesson here. This isn't just about Guantanamo or border walls or internal DHS offices. It's about a pattern, major policy shifts, enormous spending decisions, and structural changes happening without transparency, without advance notice, and without meaningful congressional input. And that's how accountability erodes, not with one explosive act, but with dozens of quiet ones. By the time the public realizes what's happened, the money is gone, the offices are hollowed out, and the safeguards meant to protect rights and prevent abuse are already weakened. Peters isn't grandstanding here. He's doing something far more old-fashioned and far more dangerous to unchecked power. He's insisting on receipts, timelines, statutes, and explanations. That's what oversight actually looks like, and the uncomfortable truth is this. If Congress doesn't demand answers about how laws are followed, how money is spent, and why protections are dismantled, then elections alone are not enough to preserve accountability. So here's the question for viewers. If an administration can move detainees to Guantanamo, spend tens of millions of dollars, and gut civil rights offices without properly notifying Congress, what else can happen without anyone noticing? If this breakdown helped you understand why this hearing matters, share it and tell us in the comments. Should Congress have stronger enforcement power when the executive branch ignores statutory notice requirements, or is oversight already being treated as optional?